let me bring on Alan,
Hey,
my colleague. Hey, how's it going, Alan?
good, good. Wild night last night.
Yes, we both saw Jackass Forever.
Yeah,
Um, so let's talk about it as our first movie. We're going to be talking about a lot of movies, some of them in limited release, like the GameStop film, but let's get right into Jackass Forever.
yeah. I should preface this by saying
Yeah.
our screening started late because the fire department showed up because they had to take someone who had apparently passed out in the previous screening and take care of her. And so there that I don't know exactly what happened, but it was just this ominous sign just before seeing this movie.
Ominous or a great sign. I think that's
Yeah.
a great sign, actually.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, after it was over, I could understand. I mean, I've never been so exhausted after a movie than after
Well,
seeing Jackass Forever.
we should talk about it. Like first, let's talk about the original show. I love that show. In the 90s, Johnny Knoxville and Chris Pontius and just like Steve-O, everyone who was on that show, it was freaking weird. Wee Man, like they would set up, it's like part prank show, like pranking just like innocent people, but then also just sort of them pranking each other and just kind of upping the game. So were you a fan of the show in the 90s?
I wasn't, and I think it has to deal with a lot of I think I'm a little too sensitive when it comes to too empathetic. Maybe that's the better word when it comes to shows like this. It's just I just feel it too much, and after a while, it's like I just can't go through this physically and mentally again.
No, I love that show. I mean, it was just like there's something about it, and I even the warning at the beginning is
Mhm.
kind of funny, and then the sort of skull and crossbones, but it's two crutches. Like I just everything about that show, I just think was you could see that. Also, what I love about it is, it reminds me of dudes I grew up with in high school, where you're constantly trying to one up each other in like, well, I'll be stupider than you, it's like famous last words, watch this, and then you do something stupid. And I'm sure that show, I mean, it definitely influenced people to do things that were dumb. But
Yeah,
each
I
of
think we grew up in this skateboard era of the 80s and 90s. I mean, and then I think that inspired all of us to be kind of daredevils in a way.
right. So remember to put up the title, Alan.
Oh
Jackass
yeah,
Forever. Yeah, you got
all
to
right.
put up that title.
We've talked
So,
about these
oh, look
things.
at
All right.
that. So the movies, I've seen all the movies. I've seen all the movies and I've seen them all in a theater. And I've generally seen them in the theater the day that they open. Here's why. I saw it at the AMC in Burbank, packed crowd. I mean, nearly sold out screening, right? I had a seat in the back. Chris Pontius actually shows up at the screening. I knew I was walking around there and I saw him walking by Buffalo Wild Wings. I see these guys and I'm like, I recognize that hair. Is that Johnny Knoxville? And they were all just hanging out. And I guess a bunch of them went in and introduced a bunch of the screenings of
Oh,
Jackass
wow.
Forever. But I've seen all the films on day one. The reason to do that is the crowd. The audience that's going to see it on the first day for Jackass Forever are all going to be super fans, right? There's no reason to go and see it unless you're on day one, unless you're a super fan, right? Because you want to see it with other people who know the characters and whatnot. And every movie they kind of up the ante. In particular, the opening scene. And this, I mean, this could spoil a little bit. A lot of the bits you've seen in the trailer. This is something that you haven't seen in the trailer, which is, should we talk about? It's
Well, they
basically,
can't show it in the trailer for one thing.
well, for sure they can't show it. There's a lot of, if you like penises, there's a lot of dicks. There's a
Yeah,
lot of dicks in this movie. So
and there's a lot of a-holes too.
there's just a lot of, if you're into disgusting male nudity, it's,
Yeah.
I don't think you could describe any of the male nudity as being sexy, like at all.
No.
But so one of the guys, his dick is dressed up like Godzilla and attacks a model town and then takes out a bunch of people. It's done in like an incredibly comical way where like you're like, what the fuck is going on? So sorry if this is a spoiler, but it's like,
It's the opening of the movie for one thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the very first part of the movie, but but there's so much. I mean, there's so much I love about this. Is one is them goofing on each other, and you know that like they spend months doing these bits where so much of it obviously doesn't make it because a bit didn't work out and whatnot. But like the stuff that they, and obviously they could do like they've done that, like, you know, Jackass like 1.5. Well, they'll do like not quite a sequel, but like it's almost like another version of the movie that has all these different bits that didn't make the cut of the first one. And I'm hoping that they do a Jackass Forever 1.5. But what were you thinking of some of the bits? I mean, almost everything is cringe or, oh, you know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my favorite part was the one that was the less cringe. It was the deadly rattlesnake in the dark room.
Oh, right.
And with, I mean, you know, it was that's kind of the second gag that happens in the movie, and it just really set the tone of just laughing, cringing, and as a good setup because, you know, it wasn't really that dangerous, but it really set up the upcoming scenes that were not only dangerous, but I don't know. I was just physically just in this movie, and I was exhausted again at the end of the film.
I'm debating about whether to see it again with my girlfriend because I just don't know if she can take it. But there's stuff in it like, I mean, this is in the trailer. People get bitten by snakes.
Yeah.
People get bitten by spiders, and we're not talking small spiders, right? They show the fangs, and every time something like cringe or horrible happens in the film, they generally do an extreme close up in slow motion just to show you, and you can hear the crowd going, "Oh!" a collective, "Oh!"
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you talked about the group experience. I was also in a sold out theater, and you know, there was a guy who sat next to me who started talking, and I started getting annoyed. And then I realized midway through the film, I was talking too. I was just screaming, yelling, covering my eyes. You know, so it was definitely a communal experience, and yeah, you've got to see it not only in a theater but in a packed theater.
For sure, and I just think being surrounded by fans just made it like super fun because these are people who have followed the Jackass team, you know, since the beginning. I mean, look, they're all freaking old. I mean, Johnny Knoxville's hair starts out black in the film, and then progressively you see him like, I don't know if he was using hair dye or whatever. I'm pretty
He's
sure
been
he
using
was.
hair dye for. He said that he went gray in high school, so he's been dyeing his hair all the
I
time.
did too. My hair, I started getting like these weird, they're not gray, they're translucent. So you could actually like see through it. And in certain lighting, you can't tell that I have any, like I'll see photos of myself from 10 years ago and I'm like, oh, but I had like all this like silvery translucent hair. And I think Johnny Knoxville has the same, he's got the same issue. But
Steve Martin too, you know.
He wears it well. He wears it well. But what was also interesting was I think they fully realize now that they're in their 50s. They're in their 50s doing all of these like incredibly dangerous stunts. I mean, someone could break their neck. Someone could die from one of these stunts. I mean, obviously they have medical medical people there, you know, on standby. Like I think everything is vetted. Well, I think it's vetted. But they bring in like new people. They brought in this comedian. God, I forget her name. But I thought
I know Rachel. I don't know her last name.
She was great. I guess they found her on Instagram. Then they brought in like these super fans, right? Which I thought were really funny. Like I thought that worked. It's like, hey, I grew up watching Jackass. Now I'm in Jackass. Which I guess for some people would be like, I grew up watching Star Wars. Now I'm in Star Wars, right? Like it felt like that because in the extra material that it's not at every screening, I think you have to check, but it's like a fan thing where they showed this. It's a thing that would probably be on the DVD anyways. And it was like a 10-minute extra where they talk about how they recruited and got these new people, you know, which added some diversity to the group, right? Which was fine. Who cares, right? Like everyone in it was like had a sense of humor about themselves. I don't think you can be a part of Jackass without having something of a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah, I
So
would say that. I mean, they're definitely setting themselves up to be able to carry on the legacy of Jackass by bringing
mhm.
in new people. I just don't know that there's a member in that group that could take Johnny Knoxville's place as kind of the ringleader, and so
Yeah,
I feel like he'd have to at least carry them along for a little while.
he's the ringmaster. Let's see. We've got some comments. So this is a reminder. Post your comments, your questions, super chats. Super chats get priority for
Yeah,
sure. But let's talk to Google sucks balls. So
whereas that Google Plus sucks balls.
Google Plus, well, it does. Google Plus. Is Google Plus even still around?
I know. I haven't thought about it until I just saw it right now.
Exactly. I went to see Jackass 4 last night. It was good, but I felt bad for Aaron. He did a huge chunk of stunts, and most of it was him getting hit in the junk. Oh God, the pogo stick one was bad.
Oh my
Yes,
god. Oh.
Aaron was like he did the most painful stunts. I actually think part of me thinks he likes it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done. I mean, everything was like new ways
Mhm.
to have him get hit in the balls,
Yeah.
right? Like the pogo stick, though, like you see, yeah,
Yeah.
he's injured. I mean, he's injured, not mortally, but a lasting injury for sure. That I mean, that'll definitely there'll
That
be a
was one I
scar
couldn't
from that.
watch. I couldn't
Yeah,
watch that one. It was
yeah.
yeah, and I think there's some kind of I think it's more of a badge of honor than an enjoyment of the actual stunt. You know, it's like he's gotten this far, he might as well go and just escalate it. And yeah, I mean, does clearly he doesn't want children. Um,
Right. I don't know if he could have kids. I mean,
oh
it's
my gosh,
at this
the abuse
point,
his balls goes throughout the entire film is
yeah.
is amazing.
Oh my God. But yeah, and it's also one of those things where you have to stay through the credits because, of course, there's more bits being played through the credits. But
Yeah.
I'm a Jackass fan. I'm biased. I loved it. I strongly recommend it. I strongly recommend seeing it in a theater. The last Jackass film, and this, we've been having this ongoing conversation about movie theaters coming back, right? Okay, the
Mhm.
screening last night on a Thursday was packed, right? The last Jackass movie opened to $50 million. This is and they're estimating like
Mhm.
15. I think this could do at least half that. I think it could
Yeah.
do half of it could do 25 million this weekend. I know they're estimating lower than that, but I think studios like to estimate low so then when it overperforms, they can brag
Mhm.
about it. But there were I mean, people there, were packed. People were not afraid to be at a movie theater.
Mhm.
You were in Orange County.
Yeah.
Well, nobody cares in Orange County.
Yeah. No,
So
we've been following the rules for quite a long time.
yeah, for sure.
We're
But
good down here.
but I do think that look, it's I mean the Super Bowl's next weekend. This weekend's
Mhm.
the Pro Bowl, which nobody cares about. It's quiet. It's not a holiday. Not a lot going on. I think Jackass is going to do extremely well. I think it's going to surprise people. I think by introducing new people as part of their group,
Mhm.
they had this father-son team, which I thought was really endearing
Yeah.
and fun, like because they made the dad do all this like crazy, they made the dad do the thing. You see it in the trailer where they
Yeah.
drop the tarantula and they've got like this tube and it's like it's either going to go one way or the other. And oh my God, that
Yeah.
scene was like the audience just went nuts.
Yeah. And then the loser has to get bit by that spider. And that is another absolutely cringe moment. Because they get like real up. I mean, I've never seen fangs on a spider like that. And then you get real up close to it. And then
And
where he gets bit is makes it even worse.
that's not even
I
like, yeah,
know.
but it's like you look at this and you're like, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't NC-17, right? It was R.
It was
It
R,
was
yeah.
it was R rated, but like I almost think it should just be like, look, there's a lot of nudity in this. There's a lot there. None of these dudes have any qualms about like, you know, going to the showers together and showering naked, right?
Yeah.
Like so now
Yeah.
you had mentioned thinking about taking your daughter to this. Where do
Well,
you stand on
it
that
was no
now?
longer thinking about taking my daughter to this. It
You're
was
not taking her.
no, I took her. She
You
was there.
took her
I took her. Yeah, it was
without
like
seeing it?
against my better judgment. I was like, I was yeah, I mean,
Alan.
if you're a good parent, yeah, you definitely want to see the movie first before you take your child to see it.
So,
I'm
so
not.
basically,
I'm
don't
not.
do what you did.
You need to understand your kid, and I think I warned her what she was going to see, and so she was pretty good about it, yeah, because you know, she's not into those things. I
Did
have
you
to tread
take her
lightly
any
how I
Alan?
structure my sentences here.
Alan, I'm really disappointed. I will just say this: if my daughter were your age, I would not have taken her. I would not have taken her. I would
She had a
wait till.
great time though.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah, I mean, not to name drop, but we did meet Johnny Knoxville a couple weeks ago, and she was very interested in seeing his movie. We told him that, and but I do remember one thing he mentioned was that they really fought hard to make sure that the movie came out in a theater, and that it wasn't going to go straight to video at all. And I think that was the right call to make. Absolutely.
all right.
Even with Omicron going around.
Yeah. Well, Alan, would you recommend Jackass Forever?
If this is your thing, absolutely. You're going to have a great time. I mean, you've seen them all. Do you feel like that Jackass Forever kind of, is the ultimate Jackass movie, or, where does it rank amongst the others?
I don't know. I feel like whatever the latest one is the one that I like the most. I mean, I'd love to do. There was actually on YouTube, they did a marathon of all the episodes of Jackass. I don't know if that link is still around on the Paramount. I think it was on the Paramount Plus YouTube channel. They just did a marathon of every single episode of the original show.
Yeah.
And I got caught up in watching it. I don't know. I mean, for me,
do you think the gags escalated themselves? I mean, do you think like they were just doing what they were doing, or do you think like these gags were better than most?
Well, I think that the budget for the gags escalated. I think the gags, and it's interesting because they do this contrast where they show how they did gags back in the day. Like there's the one with the bull where the bull comes after Johnny Knoxville, and they did that back then, and then they did it recently now where he actually really gets hurt in Jackass Forever. But I felt like seeing the contrast of like, oh, here's old bits that we did, and we kind of now have done them with a much bigger budget. And I don't know, it's cool. Like, it's like, oh, it's cool to see how it evolved. Like that was then, this is now. So I really enjoyed it. We've got another comment from Google Plus sucks balls. I'm sure the Blu-ray DVD will have an uncut version of the movie with all the skits they could not show or did not have time for it. Yeah, I mean, the DVDs always have like good extras on it. But what's interesting to me watching this too is I'm watching this, and I don't know how to make this segue. But what I love about the Jackass movies is those guys are just all in it, right? They're all like a part of it, and they've been a part of it for 30 years. And it strikes me that like when you have a franchise that's been around so long, people want to see the people who are originally involved on screen, right? Whether it be Star Trek or Star Wars. And I think other franchises that have legacy people, I think that they want to see the people that they have grown up watching. I'm not tying that to anything specific. You can read between the lines of what I'm trying to say.